record. Thank you everybody for joining. My name is Larry Lopez. I'm the principal here at Del Mar High School. With me are my assistant principals, Ms. Shembry, Ms. Wynn, and Ms. Schubert. And today we're going to talk a little bit about the state of the school. So I appreciate you all for tuning in for today. We're going to get through this in the next 10 minutes. If you do have questions, there's two ways that you can ask questions. One is going to be through our Q&A feature. So again, this would be for staff. If you want to ask questions, staff, on behalf of students, you can drop that in the Q&A and we can try to respond. The other way students can utilize the Google form at the end of this slide deck. So again, there's two ways that you can ask questions for today. So first thing to really start out and talk about is just sort of our expectations for each student. I don't think we've ever really clarified what we want from every student who comes to our campus. Now, regardless if you're a freshman or you're a senior, our main things for every student here is building community. I think the thing that I value the most about Del Mar High School is we're such an inclusive, caring community. You see that in every interaction and with every adult and student on campus and the families. So that's the key. The other thing is just challenging yourselves. We really want to increase students taking IB classes or looking at other opportunities for you to be pushed each and every time you're here at Del Mar High School. And then lastly, graduate with A through G. We know some students make the decision their senior year to go to college, but we want to make sure everyone has that opportunity when they're here at Del Mar High School. These are our expectations, and the real focus for today's webinar and the reason we're here today is really to address a tardy concern that we've been seeing and that we're having. So first, just to sort of go over what being tardy means is a student is tardy when they are not in the classroom or assigned seat number when the bell rings. Again, some teachers do expect you to be in your seats when the bell rings. So it's really good to clarify with your teacher what being tardy means and what it looks like. So this is going to be the focus for today. Now on the screen, I'm projecting our tardies over the past 3 years and where they are today. I think the biggest thing that I want to have us pay close attention to is this school year and where we are. Now, I want to take a moment to recognize that this pandemic has been challenging for every single person in more ways than one. I know I speak for a lot of people here on this call, as well as students at our school, that it has impacted families, communities, and we are still in it, and it's still affecting us in ways that we can't even explain. But I think there is a piece where some of us have maybe gotten a little more or a little less attentive with their attendance and really making it a point to get to class on time. And so what this shows is students who have had 5 or more tardies this school year, in 1920, we were at 34%, we're at 62% of students. So think about that. We're talking about 2/3 of our students, who have been late to 5 or more classes. That's a huge number. And I don't want to discount the fact that a small percentage of students, you have a lot going on in your lives. I remember last year we had a student who had to take 2 buses just to get to school. And it took this student an hour just to get to school. Like, that's a reality that some people are facing, but that's not a reality with 62% of our student population. I also want to shout out that there are about 40% of our students who are on time regularly. And I really appreciate it. And I know that you're probably thinking, well, what does this matter? What does being on time matter? But these numbers, I mean, we're going in a direction that could be really terrible for our school and for our community. And we have to address it right now and right here. I always hear, but it's only a few minutes. I hear that every time I ask why a student's out of class. And so I did some calculations on what it looks like. If you're late to 5 classes, or you're only 2 minutes late, but let's say you're late to 5 classes each week, you're missing a full 5 days of school. It's a whole week of school that you miss. The real crazy thing, and where 40% of our students are right now, is 15 tardies or more. If you're tardy 15 times, and it's only 2 minutes, just 2 minutes, but if you're tardy 15 times each week, you're missing 15 days of instruction. That's 3 weeks of school. That's half of a 6-week grading period. And so I know it seems like a little bit, but it has huge implications. And the biggest thing that I want to say is missed instruction not only impacts you, but it impacts others around you. This is a missed opportunity where maybe rather than a teacher having to go over what a student missed for being tardy, they could help, they could answer questions. It gives you a little bit more time to check in on things. So it's really impacting the whole culture of not just the class, but our school and our community. So I just want to talk about what's going to happen starting on Monday as far as tardies go. If you're tardy, no matter how many minutes, it's going to equate to 1 lunch detention. So we aren't going backwards. We're not going to talk about, oh, if you had 15 tardies in the past, that you now have 15 detentions. We're not going backwards. It starts on Monday. So the biggest thing is if you have a tardy starting on Monday, it's going to count as 1 lunch detention. If students choose not to serve their lunch detention, that's a choice. But I will say if you have 6 uncleared detentions, we'll be meeting with you as a support team to talk about what the issue is and to try to problem solve together. Once a student has 8 uncleared detentions, they move on to social probation, and I'm going to go over that. The one thing is that this resets every 6 weeks. So for those of you who maybe had a bad week or maybe a bad month, this resets every 6 weeks. So I want to be clear about sort of our expectations for students, for teachers, and for the school as a whole. Tardies cannot be excused. This is just a general thing, but what I do want to say is, like I mentioned with my example before, some of you, there are serious reasons why you can't get to school. And I think we want to know. And so what I highly encourage you to do after this, reach out to a counselor, talk to an AP, talk to me, talk to your teacher. We want to understand what the issue is, because if we can problem solve or we can support you, we want to do that. Also, I just want to make sure everyone knows that they should be able to see their attendance in Aries. So you should all have access to be able to see your attendance and know if you're tardy. So we shouldn't be using this excuse, I didn't know I was tardy. Teachers will either do one of 2 things. They'll provide you a detention slip when you get into class, or they'll direct you to the main office to get your slip. Also, teachers, as a reminder, please continue to mark T's for tardies. And then what you can expect from the school, we started implementing a 2-minute warning bell. We heard a lot of feedback of it'd be nice to have a little warning. So we've added a 2-minute warning bell. This doesn't mean we wait until the 2-minute warning bell, but just to let everyone know, we've got 2 minutes, we got to get to class. We're going to continue our reward policy for students who receive no tardies for the week. It's been hugely successful, and it's a nice perk to give students. Also, we'll continue to work with families to figure out problems outside of their control. Again, there are reasons people can't get to school on time, but it's not 60% of our students. We also want to address students being out of class, and not sure why this is showing up the way it is in text, but I'll try to fix it later. When students need to leave class for any reason, you'll use the QR code. A restroom should take about 5 minutes. Again, talk to your teacher ahead of time if there's reasons you need longer time or you need to communicate that. But I've seen students out for 30 minutes, for 35 minutes, for 40 minutes, and we know that that is way too long to be out of class. Also, please note that you shouldn't be using the restroom for the first 15 and last 15 minutes of class. Being out of class is a safety concern. We've had vandalism, we've had issues, things that have happened. And so we really want to be mindful of why we're out of class. So if we get a call because you've been out of class too long, you will be assigned a 30-minute detention. Non-negotiables for detention: be punctual. All cell phones will be collected when they're turned, when you are at detention. Make sure you bring something to work on. We'll excuse you to grab lunch. You aren't going to be missing lunch, but you're going to be having lunch with us. We'll also ask that you keep distance when you're enjoying your food. And again, having classwork or something to work on is really key for here. Please note that if you're removed or asked to leave for detention, your tardy doesn't clear. So again, you get a tardy, it equates to a detention. That tardy should be served that day. If for some reason you don't, just don't let it get to 6. I can't stress that enough. And again, if you're someone who's experiencing reasons that you can't get to school, you have to have a conversation with your guidance counselor, your AP, or your teacher so that we can help problem solve together. But again, this isn't 60% of you. So if you're unable to complete detentions, so this is students who have 8 unserved detentions. So you've been tardy 8 times and you haven't made any progress towards bettering your attendance or clearing those detentions. Social probation means no participation in practices, games, performing arts events, ASB events like Battle of the Classes, prom, and other school activities. Please note that if you are put on social probation, you can't get off social probation for those 6 weeks at this point. This is something that we'll talk about and we'll look at what that could mean. But if you get put on social probation at the start of the 6 weeks, you're on social probation for the entirety of those 6 weeks. So I really, really want to encourage you, don't get to 8 unexcused detentions. You should be serving those as soon as you get those, or again, talk to us ahead of time if there's reasons outside of your control that are keeping you from being to class on time. For students who are chronically absent, these are students who can't get to class for one reason or another. If this is something that you fall into, know that we have reached out either in the past with home visits or meeting with family and community services to see how we can support. Also inviting families to campus so that we can troubleshoot. The reality is there also becomes an issue with students actually coming to campus, and we do want to problem solve that as well. And so this is another thing that we really wanted to highlight. Students shouldn't be missing school as well. So I'm going to open it up for questions for our last few minutes. This form is for you guys to ask questions of us. You can drop questions in the Q&A chat. I know that this went fairly quickly, and so I'm sure everyone has lots of questions that they're thinking about. But the biggest thing I want to say is 2 things. Three things. One, I think that there's a lot of students who are showing up on time who we greatly appreciate what you're doing. And I don't want to negate the fact that that has been a huge success for us. Number 2, there's a lot of people who have reasons that they can't get to class and are finding things troublesome. We do need to talk and troubleshoot this. You can't be figuring this out on your own, all alone. You're not on an island, so we want to work together. And then lastly, there's a lot of you who just need to work on this. We have to do better. I know that we can do better. So we've got a couple questions. Is there going to be a specific room for detention? Yes, right now it's going to be 81 and 82 are going to be our rooms. It'll also be printed on the detention pass. Good question. If students are off campus and try to come back on campus, will they get detention? Good point. I did not put on here about students who are off campus. So students who are off campus will access through the front office. Yes, it will be detention. Please remember, we are a closed campus. It is a huge safety concern if we are opening the gates for students or letting people on campus. So I just want to really stress, I don't want anyone off campus. I don't want people opening the gates for people. It is a huge safety concern.
I want to add, if your parents bring you lunch, please have them come through the main office as well, so that, you're not seen on Del Mar Avenue.
And this goes for first period and advisory too. We can't have people late for first period and advisory. So it goes for all class periods. All right, well, I'll stick around here for just a minute. I'm gonna stop recording. The bell just rang, but if you guys have any questions,